Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
Welcome to another edition of the All Out Leadership Podcast. Last week, we talked about David's mighty men. We looked at the chief three mighty men and four important characteristics that truly made them great. And now this week, we're going to pick up with that and talk about the law of reproduction. Because they didn't start out great, they became great under David's leadership. There was a sales meeting and the manager was very frustrated with his sales team and he was berating them and just frustrated going, I've just had enough of this poor performance. You know, if you guys can't do your job, I know there's somebody else in line waiting for your job. I just need you guys to pick up the pace and do your job. Come on, we're better than this. Then he pointed to a retired professional football player who was now part of their sales team. And the upset manager asked the football player this question: if a football team isn't winning, what happens? The players are replaced, right? Then there was a few moments of an awkward, silent pause. And the former football player replied, well, actually, sir, if the whole team was having trouble, we usually got a new coach. Awkward. So look, there are times that you look in your organization, there's times you look around you and you're frustrated. You can complain about maybe what you allow, you can complain about what maybe you've even created, but that does not fix the problem. Look, it starts with us as leaders. Leaders are the lids of the organization. It is much more enjoyable to blame others, and it's much more painful to stop and look at myself and go, what do I need to change about me? What we see with David is he attracted some of the not greats, but David grew them into great people. Now, you can't grow everybody, and there were at least 400 to 600 people we know that had gone with David and were part of his army, and there were only 30 that were highlighted at his mighty men. Not everybody can go to the next level of greatness with you, but that doesn't mean we don't try to take as many with us as we can. So I want to make a statement. Giant killers reproduce more giant killers. Giant killers reproduce more giant killers. And I just want to read a passage from 1 Samuel chapter 21 and verse 18. Now it happened that there was again a battle with the Philistines at Gad. Then, not even going to try to pronounce that name. It starts with an S. Sheba, let's just skip it. Killed Saph, who was one of the sons of the giant. And again, there was a war at Gob with the Philistines, where Elhanan killed the brother of Goliath, the Gittite. Yet again, there was war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number. And he was also born to the giant. And when he had defied Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shema, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath and fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his servants. David killed Goliath, but really David's greater achievement wasn't the giant he killed, but the giant killers that he raised up. David killed more Goliaths or more giants and actually killed his whole family, in essence, through other people. So let me ask you this question. If you couldn't measure your success by what you've done, but only by what you've inspired, taught, and mentored others to do, how much success would you have? Because if it's just you and everything rises and falls with you, when you die, your success dies with you. You don't want success, you want legacy. And legacy is raising up other people who can also kill giants. I like the statement, success is what you do for yourself, but significance is what you do for other people. As you pour your life into other people, you're really raising up giant killers. And so how many giant killers are you raising up? Are you structured to raise up other leaders? There's a great book out there. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. It's called Never Eat Lunch Alone. And basically surrounding your life and your schedule in such a way where you're always duplicating yourself into somebody else. So I just want to give you 4 simple things that Jesus used when he was developing and duplicating himself into his disciples. Now, think about this. Jesus poured himself into the 12. There were other disciples because we know that Jesus sent out the 70. There were large crowds that followed Jesus, but in essence, he really poured himself into the 12 and essentially into the key three, his mighty three, Peter, James, and John. But this is the method in which he used to reproduce himself into others. And think about it. Jesus created the single largest movement in all of human history with 12 people. And he did it in 3.5 years. Jesus never wrote a book, didn't create a podcast, didn't have a social media account, never traveled more than 120 miles, walked everywhere he went, and he changed the world, created the largest religion in the world in 3.5 years, and he did it using these 4 simple steps. Number 1, I do, you watch. Jesus did, his disciples watched. Number 2, he goes, all right, we're going to do it together. And you see that there were times the disciples were doing ministry alongside Jesus. You see that when Jesus was feeding the crowd, he's like, all right, guys, how many fish do we have? He's involving them in the process. All right, have everybody sit down. All right, be sure to go ahead and pick up all the broken fragments. He was involving them in the ministry, and they did it together. And the third thing was, all right, now you go do it, and I'm going to sit back, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to give you feedback on how you did. He sent the 70 out 2 by 2. They came back, and they reported, and Jesus gave them feedback, and then ultimately he released them to do, but he continually inspects. So these are the 4 steps of duplication. If you leave any of these steps out, you aren't delegating, you aren't duplicating, you're dumping. And there are many leaders who go, man, I'm developing leaders. And all they're doing is dumping things on their to-do list. They aren't coaching. They aren't creating feedback loops. They aren't modeling. They aren't dialoguing and processing. Man, you're not developing. You're just dumping on somebody else. And that's not fair, and that's not good leadership. So don't leave any of these steps out. So always have somebody watching what you do so that they can learn. What I like to do is when I'm having conversations with someone, I rarely ever meet with anybody alone. I always have one of my staff pastors there. And one of the reasons for that is there's always accountability. So nobody can walk out and go, well, you said, well, nope, there was somebody to say that's not what I said, or you heard differently from what I said. But also, really, the bigger picture is this. I'm allowing that person to see how I serve people, love on people, navigate difficult conversations with people. So, and then here's what I'll do. After that, I'll go, what did you learn? So what do you think? What would you do differently? And then I dialogue with them on what I just did so that they can go have other conversations on my behalf. Because I can't be at every meeting. I can't talk with every person that wants to meet with me in the church as much as I want to. So I reproduce myself into the leaders so that they have my heart, and that when they have those meetings, they know how to navigate it as I would. And then we're going to do things together. I'm very team-oriented. I rarely just walk in and go, guys, this is what we're doing. I might walk in and go, hey, I'm just sensing this, or I think God might be saying this to us, or hey, guys, I see an opportunity here. Let's talk about it. I'm very team-oriented in how we lead. I'm not just a solo decision maker. We're making decisions as a team. Now, at the end of the day, we'll dialogue, we'll discuss. At the end of the day, the buck stops with me. There are times I have to go, hey, great, I heard that, appreciate that. Here's what we're going to do now. But we often are doing things and collaborating together. The third thing is this. Now, I'm going to let them do things, and I'm going to watch. There are times I'll let another person lead a meeting, and I'm just going to sit back, and I'm going to watch, and I'm going to take notes. And then after, I'm going to pull them aside and go, let's talk about that. Here's what I thought you did really well. I liked how you navigated that. This was really good. Here's a suggestion I have. Maybe next time, try this. And I like to lead with questions. When you made this statement, how did that feel? Do you feel that went good? Do you feel that they received that? Did that land well? No, Pastor, I felt that didn't work. I go, what would you do differently next time? Questions is the greatest way to coach and lead. As greatest coaches lead through questions. That's what Jesus did. He coached through questions. And number 4, you do and I inspect. If you just release people but you don't inspect, people don't do what you expect. They do what you inspect. I like the statement, don't just have an MBA, get an MBWA, because an MBWA is better than an MBA. So Masters of Business, but I like the MBWA, Masters by Walking Around. And so one of the greatest things that you can do is continually walk around and inspect what people are doing. I like what General Patton said. He said, I don't judge the efficiency of an officer by the calluses on his butt. That's good. Only Patton could get away with that one. And great leadership isn't just sitting behind a desk. It's actually going out and seeing how your team is doing. When you look at history, that's really what some of the greatest CEOs did. Sam Walton would always go down to every level of the organization and just ask. He'd go down to the loading docks in the middle of the night and just talk with the guys and, bring them some sodas and just talk and listen. Lee Iacocca would go down to the floor and get the engineers' input. He would talk to the people on the assembly lines and get and solicit feedback and just inspect and see how things are going. All right, we're going to continue next week in this same line and talking about David, and we're going to talk real specifically about the situation with David and Saul, where David had an opportunity to cut some corners with Saul, and we're going to see how David navigated some difficult opportunities.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at ericlawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.